Hello, everyone. I'm so excited to be here at this great conference that goes on every year. And I'm very grateful for the Layer 123 folks for inviting us back this year to present on a very important topic we believe will be very impactful to the industry in general. So let's just get started. In today's session, I'm going to cover automation for the federation of interconnected digital ecosystem. Now, we believe this is a very important area at MEF because with the digital economy continuing to grow at massive rates, the interconnection of an ecosystem to enable this digital economy is very important. And with this, we'll see massive network transformation. And let me just get into the details of this. So number one, our members at MEF has been mainly service providers in the communication realm. So they're being namely called communication service providers. However, more and more as its digital transformation continues to rise, we see the need for a communications provider membership to grow into become a digital service provider. So let me start with this and continue. The DSP, or the digital service provider, is really the essence of taking what service providers have been doing for decades, servicing the enterprise in the far left, but now interconnecting many partners of clouds, the internet, obviously, private clouds, wholesale partners, and the emergence of digital services, AI, ML, machine learning, smart cities, IoT, and so on. But with that, also taking their assets off their edges and putting compute into them, in the building edges and the network edges, and then more importantly, delivering a cloud-like experience to the enterprise with near real-time capabilities of provisioning, visibility, control, and this complete automation has to be there in place to enable this vision. So with that, we see the idea that an attribute of a digital service provider is really enabling their network to be programmable and to be cloud native in nature. The second most important thing is that these DSPs enable services themselves, not only through their ecosystem of partners, but within services that they themselves enable and deliver as managed offerings. And they do that through their edges and through virtualization, the innovation of virtualization and NFV. Added to that is the idea of automation. Automation, removing people where it has been done in the past and delivering it through machines and automation and code and software, and more importantly, APIs to interconnect all this automation. And then finally, the most important, to enable a frictionless experience, a portal where a customer or subscriber can go in the portal and be able to provision, control, gain visibility of their full end-to-end service, whether they're connected from their home or whether they're connected in their offices, or the users connected to the home or offices, and therefore connecting to various services. This is a very important scenario as we see the idea of that users will be moving throughout, whether they're at home, branch site, whether they're mobile or at their headquarters. Wherever they go, they expect their services to just run flawlessly. They expect the experience to be frictionless. They expect their applications to just perform, and they expect the security to be there and not have to think about it. So we've seen the idea of what we've been calling the rise of a user-centric network. Now, this is nothing new. This has been happening for quite a while, but COVID has certainly accelerated the need for this. And with this, as you can see, users want to work from anywhere. Users want to be in their home, as COVID is demanding, or when they're on the road, or they're visiting various offices, or at their headquarters. They want to have that same experience, that frictionless experience, and they want to be able to connect to various of their services, whether it be their services and applications that run in the clouds, public, private clouds, accessing the internet, or accessing various lines of business services wherever they might be. The idea of a temporal, mobile, and fluid network is very, very critical. And we at MEF sees this as a very important aspect of the automation and the interconnection of this digital ecosystem. So with that, I'd like to describe what I believe is the end state. The end state is basically users that wants to connect, as I stated, from wherever they are inside the enterprise networks, or whether at home or mobile, and get to one of their digital services. Now, to enable this vision, whether the digital services live on provider clouds or cloud providers or partners, or in the actual service providers that they are using for their managed services, automation plays a very critical role. And with automation comes the idea of APIs. So we see automation within the cloud providers, automation within the service providers to be a DSP, automation even within multinationals and large enterprises are enabling automation. And to create automation and to connect that automation into an end-to-end ecosystem, open APIs become very critical. And at MEF, we've been working very hard to enable this vision of automation using open APIs. So in the past, we've been seeing providers have been using all kinds of various ways to create this ecosystem, whether it be doing manual processes, email and so on, or using web portals, or more importantly, having customer proprietary APIs is kind of being the way that many providers have handled this way of connection of this ecosystem. We at MEF has been spending years to enable the idea of a federation, an open federation where many providers can plug into, including enterprises, and using automation and open APIs, have the ability to provision and to get visibility and control their services end-to-end, wherever they are to wherever they are going to their services. So let me get into detail what I mean by this federation, open APIs. At MEF, we have many providers worldwide that have created massive investments in their transports and their underlay. They have massive capacities of gigabits of capacities to terabits of capacities of both optical, IP, and/or Ethernet. And these massive transports is the requirements needed for a digital economy, as more and more enterprises rely on that interconnectedness of a massive network to interconnect all their applications, all their sites, all their clouds that they subscribe to, and so on. So we believe a very high-speed underlay fabric is very critical. And with that, MEF has been working on a set of open APIs to interconnect these service providers and providers worldwide. And if you think about it, most of these providers already are connected at the data plane level, but have never really been connected in an automated, federated way in the business systems. So MEF, when a subscriber or an enterprise wants to turn up a service at any part of one part of the globe, a service provider normally doesn't have access to every other part of the globe, and they have to rely on their ecosystem of partners. And we want to enable that partnership to be really a federation where everybody participates. Cloud providers, access providers, service providers, and even enterprises participate in an open set of APIs that enables the ability to do a bunch of business use cases. So think about the ability for an enterprise or subscriber to take an address and decide what kind of products and services are available at that address, any part of the globe, and then basically understand and get a price quote, be able to order that automatically. And then if things go wrong, to be able to open a trouble ticket in an automated fashion. And then finally, to change the bandwidth on demand, whether it be policy driven, on time of day, or just through a user interface. And then finally, to be able to look at how well that service is running and even be able to test the service. Now we're talking about all of this that has been done manually through work orders and people or proprietary APIs to be done in an open ecosystem of federation, and all done through machines and automation and near real-time capabilities. This is very critical. This underlying underlay fabric that's really high speed, that has true automation end-to-end, and everybody plugged in, is really the essence to then enable a very agile overlay on top of this. And this agile overlay is critical because this agile overlay then is the enablement of all kinds of digital services on top of a very high-speed fabric. And we at MEF have been working on both the high-speed underlay fabric of Carrier Ethernet, interconnected and automated with APIs. And now we've been working on SD-WAN with the first standard released last year and the next standard coming out this year, version 2. We're also releasing SASE. As you know, the Secure Access Service Edge is a very hot area to add in security into that SD-WAN environment, and zero trust and identity to be able to access these environments and these networks, these overlays, where these digital virtual services will sit at the edges and at clouds and at data centers. So with this vision and this mission, MEF has been highly engaged to provide not only the services, but the automation to these services to enable this cloud-like experience. So the way we've done this is real simple. We've been defining service specifications in Carrier Ethernet for over a decade. We've taken how we've done that, which is an $80 billion plus market, and we've enabled that cookie cutter to build out all kinds of new cookies in the way of IP services, just taking and reusing the IETF work in IP and rebranding it into a way that we can describe subscriber services. We've done the same thing with Layer 1 Optical, and now we've released new emerging services of SD-WAN and soon to release SASE. We've taken those service specifications, we've modeled them into an information modeling language that allows simplifications for APIs. We then describe use cases of various kinds of commercial use cases around, as I described, the ability to address validation, quoting, ordering, and so on. And with all of that, we've taken that and mulled that down into data schemas that enable APIs. Now with this, we've not just started and rebuilt these APIs from scratch, we've worked in collaboration with other SDOs. And this is what I'm going to describe, this great collaboration has enabled us to build this automation ecosystem framework to enable this digital ecosystem. And in MEF we've done is we've enabled this work of service definitions into APIs and automation systems and delivered them in SDKs. So MEF has now been delivering software development kits in these open APIs in collaboration with other SDO partnerships. And I'll describe that in a second. At the end of the day, MEF has been delivering LSO APIs and will continue to deliver LSO APIs around the MEF-defined services of Carrier Ethernet and so on. So what does that mean? It means that MEF services are not only defined in a way that subscribers can buy these services to remove confusion, enable the market to move faster and to evolve faster, but also the idea, it enables the idea of these services to be orchestratable, to be cloud-like in agility, and to be able to deliver these services to be automated and orchestratable in almost near real time. So with that, MEF has delivered a framework called Lifecycle Service Orchestration, and that's almost 4 years in the making. And in every part of this framework, we've delivered a set of APIs. And these APIs have been collaborated with a bunch of industry SDOs, and I'm proud to say this week we've announced how we've been collaborating with TM Forum and to enable this open ecosystem of APIs through a federation, and more importantly, to have true interoperability. So anybody, any provider can just plug into the federation with implementing the MEF SDKs. And as you can see from this diagram, we describe a set of reference points in musical terms called sonata, legato, interlude, and so on. And today I'm going to talk about how providers from their business systems can talk to their other business systems through these automated APIs. And we've done this in partnership again with TM Forum. So let me get right to the details of this. What we've done, and I believe very innovatively, is we've taken the ability to take APIs and do them in a polymorphic approach. And what do I mean by this? We've taken the TM Forum APIs, which are 50+ APIs that are well accepted in the industry, that really describe the protocols and the encoding schemes and the security mechanisms, and more importantly, some lower level operational and function information. And these APIs, we've added to them MEF-specific information we call payloads, and that's the polymorphic part of it. And together with the API structure or framework, or we call the envelope, and therefore the MEF payload, together we deliver open interoperable APIs between the business systems, and also can be used at other reference points facing the enterprise or down to lifecycle service orchestration. Now these APIs, or this approach we've used, is very powerful. Over the last year, we've been working with TM Forum to deliver what we call a domain context specialization of the TM Forum APIs. So what does that mean? We've taken the 50+ TM Forum APIs, taken a subset of that, used them in Sonata, and we've customized them in this envelope part. And we've used them specifically for MEF, because MEF needed very strict changes to these APIs to match our requirements and business use cases. And then we've added in payloads for MEF-specific services today, carry Ethernet, and then future looking into IP and SD-WAN and SASE. And we can do all of that without any providers having to change the APIs while changing their product or services. And this is a very powerful idea polymorphic approach. So today, with TM Forum, we've customized the TM Forum APIs, we've added our own payloads, and we delivered them in our own MEF LSO APIs, today called Sonata, which is available, I'll talk about in a minute, how to get them, and can be used to plug into this federation and enable this federation. So let me just describe two major use cases. Number one is we have a very large market in MEF with providers in carry Ethernet. It's an $80 billion market, and today it's being very static in nature in provisioning these services. When a customer, a multinational customer, wants to turn up a site in one part of the world to another site in another part of the world for Ethernet, there's normally been a service provider involved servicing that customer we call the retail provider. So in this example, a retail provider, service provider in Europe, has an enterprise customer in the UK office, and that enterprise wants to connect to their site in a US office, but this European operator doesn't have the access loops or the networks to those US offices and locations that enterprise customers want. So the retail provider hides this by what they call a wholesale relationship with many providers around the world. So to the customer, it looks like it's a one-stop shopping to the retail service provider, and that retail service provider turns up their services around the world. And to do that, we've done that with LSO Sonata APIs in an automated way. We support the ability of this retail service provider to connect to their wholesale operator or service providers to turn up these services end-to-end globally. And we enable that through their business systems on those use cases I described. Ability to place a quote, ordering, trouble ticketing, and so on. And then in the future areas to even do billing and settlement. And this is done, again, in the polymorphic approach. So today's carry Ethernet based, but you'll see in the next slide, it can be applied to any kinds of MEF services, including SD-WAN, IP, SASE, and so on. So with the rise of the network edge, here's another use case for Sonata. As the edge emerges, and service providers and even cloud providers enable the edge for low latency applications, SD-WAN plays a very critical role, and so does SASE. And more service providers want to turn up and connect to access loop providers all around the world, and to be able to do that in an automated fashion. Now with Sonata, these underlays can be turned up very fast, again, using those same APIs, and just changing the payloads can then enable all kinds of new kinds of services for automation, like IP broadband, IP MPLS, 5G, fixed wireless access, can be all enabled by Sonata by just changing the payload and not have to change any part of the envelope APIs. So this is a very powerful paradigm concept, and in the way that new product offerings can happen, new services can happen without having to change out any of the APIs, which really helps the service providers and their IT environments to not have to change every time their BSS systems every time there's a product change or a service change. Very, very powerful construct enabled between the TM Forum, MEF, and other partners. So with this, I'd like to thank you for your time, and I'm very grateful to be here in this virtual way to be able to express where we believe at MEF we can play an important role and impact this industry in this digital transformation, in this digital economy. So thank you very much.